Welcome back to New Meta. This is episode 55. Calibrations, Dota Plus, shuffles, playing from behind. Lots to talk about. Marco, welcome back to the pod. A newly disgraced pod post calibrations. We've got no credibility left.
Yeah, I might try out Heart of the Storm. What's it called? Heroes of the Storm. See how that goes. Yeah. Season 4 is not the place to be.
Yeah. Adam, you're keeping the pod hope alive, kind of. I mean, you're the only one that had positive calibrations, but even then, the medal crunch is so brutal that everyone's falling behind regardless.
Yeah, I'm still an Ancient 7 scrub, even after a 7-3 or a 6-4 calibration.
I have two salty remarks to make about calibrations if you want me to dive in.
Absolutely. I was about to intro you. I was about to say, what was the... Can you give the listeners a brief? Because these things can drag. Marco, tell the listeners what they want to hear about your calibrations.
Well, two brief comments. First is about badge, about support MMR. So I go 3-7 in support, which is already catastrophic. But all I need is just one win, and that's like a 150 MMR flip. And with that one more win, I would have stayed immortal, and that would have made me a satisfied human. Second remark is about MMR, and that goes to my core MMR. I go 2-8. I actually lose nearly 450 MMR, which is... how many net wins is that? I think it's 22? 4 times 4... Or 18?
Yeah, it's like...
It's like 18 net wins.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
It took me like 2 to 3 months of pretty consistent solo ranked back when me and Stan lived together to make a climb like that. I no longer have that time available. I'm now just like, put me under one of those French cut your head off things, because like guillotines. That core MMR is just not coming back.
Well, that's why you should have taken a break in between the matches instead of just powering through them. Sad.
3 of them got shafted from party games, but yeah, they were kind of bad. I'll do my support rank to try and climb because I'm on 97%, so it is literally just like if I won one more game in support, it would have flipped it sufficiently. So now I'm gonna have to drudge through some POS 5 maiden. Yawn.
Yeah. Yawn. Marco doesn't do breaks. I know that from when we lived together for a while and we played a lot of Dota. I was like taking breaks in between all my games, making a cup of tea. Marco's just got to hit that Q button.
Marco doesn't even take breaks in the game when he dies. He just buys it.
Hey, there it is. The token buyback flame. The listeners don't have to wait long for it this week. Adam, while we're on the topic of calibrations, you, similar to Marco, you don't take breaks from playing certain heroes when they're working. Go on, tell us what's been going on with your cals.
Night Stalker. In so many words. I shouldn't so I went 6-2 in core calibrations outside of playing with you guys. I should not have played those ranked core games.
That was a big mistake.
I was 4-0 on Night Stalker in calibrations. The last 2 games I played, it got banned, which made me sad because I was really wanting to grind those out, but I luckily split them. Yeah, so I went 6-4, went from 4850 to 525.
Strong.
5,025, sorry.
175?
Yeah, so plus 175.
It's unbelievable.
Ancient 749. So if I had I think if I had won one more game, I would have got Divine 1.
Yeah,
for sure.
One game is one star, pretty much. 150 MMR.
So I won a game after that, got up to 72, and then I played Party, and I lost 2 in a row. That was a bit of a yikes.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I don't know about party games. It's scary, man.
I totally agree. Yeah, party games are so scary right now.
We just got destroyed. It was so incredibly unbalanced. This last one I played, and then we got giga stomped and still lost 19 MMR. I was like, this doesn't seem very fun or fair.
Hmm.
Like, how does the other team have 4 immortals and we have a legend 5? and it still like is relatively even for the MMR loss.
Yeah. Well, at least you're close to Divine. That's good news for you. I'm similar-ish to Marco. I don't know how much MMR I lost. Like, so I went 4-6, so I lost 150 MMR, which isn't too bad. Ancient 2, so I do have a long way to get back to Divine 1, where I left last season. I feel like the foreshadowing was just there right from the off with this core game that me and Marco played, not realizing it was a calibration, then straight away starting with a loss. And then I basically tried to play OD and got punished for thinking I can play OD with a loss. Then an inspired win on TA, by the way. But then for the rest of the time, it was like I played Meepo twice, which was meant to be my best hero. Lost both of those games, and then I embraced the green hero with like 2 Viper games and 2 Necro games, and those were the wins. So green gaming paying off for me pretty nicely. And I'm yet to calibrate support, but I'm expecting a heavy loss on the supports because I'm currently 1-5, and my support MMR was already about 200 lower than my core. So we'll see where that ends up. Very much legend territory, unless I win about 3 games in a row. But luckily, only the highest badge is shown, so there you go, saving my blushes a little bit. As for other little things to cover before we jump any further, Marco, we know Alliance, one of your favourite teams. Rest in peace.
Yeah, so that's really... I think it is kind of weird news, because I would have thought that Alliance, having been with that stack for 2 years, must have been serving the players pretty well in terms of, I imagine, salary. I imagine giving them like a lot of hospitality, good, like, I think they're decent organization, management of the team, like all solid. But now the 5 players have bailed on them for the, we presume, Team Liquid, which is kind of harsh, but and sad that then
just
the Alliance
business,
team,
baby.
Yeah, it'd be sad if the Alliance team don't pick up a roster though, because it is cool to see them back in the scene as a brand.
Yeah.
Gork stack or something.
That would be interesting. It is cool to see. I feel like after 2 years, I really associate that stack with the Alliance org like really strongly. So it's kind of like Alliance as an organization has built this new identity around like a young, dynamic, like fun team.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see who they pick up. Yeah.
It is a bummer because they spent 2 years with them and they really didn't have a lot of results for the first year and a half.
Well, even if you think about TI, they qualified for TI, which is great. Obviously, they get knocked out straight away in lower bracket round 1. And then when they stuck together after that, I was like, oh, wow, so this stack really does feel like their best days are still ahead of them for sure, hence why they're staying together. So, like, they're still invested in Alliance, they're still invested in each other, but then the Alliance side of it just kind of gets shafted, and presumably these better days ahead of them now will be to the benefit of a different org, which is kind of a shame. But there you are.
Blame Kuroki. It's all his fault.
Yeah, it's just true enough. Yeah. Have you caught any Midas mode, anyone? Adam, I don't know if you've seen any Midas. None. Yeah, I haven't really seen any either.
I saw a clip of the VR-controlled Roshan bashing EGM to death, and that was it.
Yeah. I haven't seen much of it either, to be fair. It looks cool, though.
Have you seen the audience? Is there a live
it's online
event? Is it a pure online? Because weren't they selling tickets and like a goodie bag or something?
Yeah, maybe it has a live audience, but the games are online, so they're just like shown on a screen.
Yeah, I wonder what that venue's like, that setup.
It was the same setup that they did their TI9 Jungle Jam, I believe.
Okay.
Which I also saw nothing of. So this is some quality content for the listeners. Us trying to think about how an event went that we haven't seen any of.
That was just Jungle Jam was like recap of the previous day's TI stuff.
Yeah.
So if you just stayed up to watch TI, there was no point in watching it.
That's true, yeah.
I wonder how many people are watching this event, though, given it got so much traction and love and all that. I don't know if it's just a loud minority or if there actually is a lot of people following it. With NA times,
I hope a lot, because Valve changed they changed the whatchamacallums.
Quals.
Quals, yeah. They changed the quals for it, so I hope people tuned in. after
Yeah.
causing such an uproar.
Maybe there'll be some finals this weekend when more people can watch.
Yeah, I'll probably watch the finals. Or on the weekend, yeah. It is a classic Reddit thing, though, of someone made a thread where they said more people have upvoted the thread about how we need to have more support of the tier 2, tier 3 scene than are actually supporting the tier 2, tier 3 scene. And because the number of upvotes was for like some random tier 2 qualifier was like minute compared to this outrage thread. So I guarantee loads of people have really thought, oh my god, it's outrageous what they've done to Midas mode, they should support Midas mode, and then have no intention of watching it whatsoever. So that's the struggle that the tier 2 scene, I suppose, is up against. Although this is kind of a unique event, it's not really tier 2 Dota, it's like a random post-TI meme in the downtime, the interlude.
Yeah.
So, today's topic then, playing from behind and generally coming back in a game of Dota from a deficit. Let's just jump straight in. The first thing we thought to mention is recognizing when you're actually behind, because this can be quite a confusing, well, not quite as simple as it would seem to some people when they're actually playing a game of Dota. Marco, what's your thoughts on recognizing when you're behind, or what are the telltale signs of when you're behind?
So, I mean, the approach I have to this fairly big topic is kind of chronological, and so taking each phase of the game and like thinking, do I expect, or should I, or can I be ahead or behind? Say if you take the laning, obviously, naturally, there are going to be some lane setups where, say it's 2v2, they can mash you up, say. It's hard to think of an example off your head, but basically you've got to be looking at your abilities because you don't have anything else in the laning phase, really. Then connecting to the early game generally, to me, it's like, yeah, what are those abilities? How strong are they? I mean, do you have kill potential? Is it like a jug who's going to spin you down or whatever? Then that transitions into, like, what are the first items you're going to get? Are you going to get like a boost of speed windlace, which means you now no longer die to this whatever combo they have? If that's now the case, you're now no longer behind in your lane. You're now maybe equal or even ahead. And so when I think early game and I think, right, are you playing from behind or not? It's going to be this, okay, you've just got to compare the spells, and then you've got to think, can any item swing it back in my favor? Sometimes it's probably not, and therefore you just got to make the best of a worst scenario. But in some situations, like picking up your phase boots, say, could make you be able to swing that lane in your favor. Getting, I don't know, like mana boots, if for some reason now you can spam spells more and like swing it in your favor. It is very much like you've got to look at the abilities, see how they match up. Like, can you kill? Can you not kill? Can you trade better or not? And then think if there's ever a point where you can actually be stronger, and then act on it when you're stronger. Don't try and act on it when you're not. I think one of the big mistakes that you see often in just many pubs is people thinking they're stronger than they are, and so they might try and get a kill, and it just doesn't work because they don't have the damage, or actually the other guys have more damage, more burst, and like misjudging how strong their spells actually are.
Yeah,
I think that's really common.
Just while we're on the topic of laning, which we won't spend too long on, but I suppose actually this applies throughout the game. I also think people misjudge how strong they are in the other direction often, where they don't think, actually, if we execute our spells in a correct way and get an initiation and get an initial whatever, disable, etc., how strong they actually are, because they've got a recency bias of the last fight in which their team gets, the initiation is like a 3-man RP. Obviously, you're going to lose the fight. It doesn't matter how ahead you are. And so they think, oh, I guess because of RP, we're way behind. It's actually like, no, if you just use your spells well, if you use spells properly and don't get 3-man RP to start a fight, you're actually way ahead. So it's, it can go both ways for sure.
And it's also an interesting one because it's not, you could easily say, oh yeah, use your spells and you're going to win games. Oh, that's so obvious. But it's actually not always the case that applies. Like so I know now jumping later in the game, but you could be at some 20, 30-minute game point and it actually not be true, the saying of use your spells correctly and you'll win. Because the nature of the teams, whatever, it might be that you need items and you've got some like hard carry, hard farmers that, yeah, maybe you can use an RP with them, but if your carry doesn't have 4 items, maybe the damage output isn't there. And I think that's the same in the early game, that it's not always the case that, oh yeah, use spells correctly would actually be good enough. I know that's kind of opposite to what point you make, but both do apply. Like, you have to be aware, cognizant of when your spells are strong enough and when they're not strong enough.
Yeah, and for sure. I mean, you watch a pub and you'll see massive overextensions and you'll see massive missed kills. You'll see both from people just not understanding their relative strength. It's extremely hard in Dota. Adam, maybe in general, or, well, you can touch on the laning stage or any point in the game. What do you reckon is how you'd assess whether you're ahead or behind?
I guess just off of last hitting into 9, you can kind of determine whether or not you're ahead or behind.
You have a feeling, don't you?
Yeah, if you're losing all the range creeps, you can start to feel it, I guess, fall a little bit behind. But also, I guess if you talk about items, you know, if, like, say the Jug gets first blood and then he has boots and you don't have boots, it's like, okay, that's a bad lane.
Yeah.
Right? As a support or a core, because you're just going to get spun on and you have nothing you can do. I do think kills are pretty... It sets the rubber band. Like, you don't have to feel too bad about falling behind in kills early. There's countless games where I know that we've been ahead like 10-1 or something in the laning stage, and they just don't actually mean anything. You can squander it. All it takes is somebody to die with a kill streak, and then the XP like gets way out of hand.
Yeah. The earlier in the game, the more important.
Yeah, the early in the game. I think in the mid game, just to get to there, how I feel really behind is if I look at hero levels. It's not so much... I mean, gold can be hard to judge, and gold is also... Maybe they haven't even spent that gold they have as a lead on an item yet, or maybe they don't spend it the right way, and so it's like less... absolute, but XP can be a big deal in the mid game.
Underrated. People, like lesser players, think because they've spent the first 10 minutes trying to get gold from last hitting creeps, which gives an obvious picture of, you know, the gold coins flying out of the last hit and you looking at what items you should get. People neglect how important XP is. I mean, it's probably something we've harped on about to no end on this podcast, but especially in the mid game, you can really lose track of actually our 2 mids are 3 levels apart. That's a big difference. That's 3 spells that are a higher level doing considerable more damage, more stun, you know, whatever it is. Or a level 2 ultimate, even more obvious, or a talent, again, even more obvious. These things are easy to be overlooked, like you say.
The level 6 and on supports in particular is one of the biggest cruxes of this early/mid-game point. Say 10 minutes in, you want to get that tome, bing, you're level 6. You could be behind. Like, if you imagine a game 10 minutes in, the enemy jug's 5-0, could be. And so you're behind. But say you hit your level 6, saying a lion, or take a lion, him plus 1, maybe 2 other heroes, maybe look at a smoke kind of play, even though you're behind, and even maybe like these XP advantages aren't in your favor, but you've now hit that critical, say level 6, or just, level 6, say, you can blow that hero. And what happens? You get a massive comeback from gold XP, jug downtime, etc., etc. So even if, though, the game looks like... I mean, you could be behind in both gold and XP, but that's not the end of the game. You can still recognize these pockets of power you have, e.g., can you use your ultimates in this effective way in a gank, or look to try and get like 2 kills with that early ravage play, even though you're behind gold XP. You still have tools at your disposal to claw it back.
And no relationships in Dota are linear. Like, the power to XP relationship's not a linear correlation. It's like you get level 6. That's a much bigger relative increase to your power than, say, going from level 6 to level 7 or whatever it is. So being cognizant of how relatively power spiky you are, etc., can change drastically, even just going from level 5 to level 6 or whatever it is. I'd say, just to make a general point about recognizing when you're ahead and behind. At its most basic level, when you strip it down, I think particularly in the late game, you get these late game situations and mid game situations. When you put all of the variables, I suppose, all the heroes into a big calculator from both sides and see which team should come out ahead if both teams like use their spells pretty much to the same effect, if you know what I mean. That, at its most basic level, is who's ahead or behind, who's going to win a team fight. But then you add the caveats from there of, well, which team's more likely able to take an objective, say, because you play against a Lycan strat. And one of my calibrations game was against a Lycan strat. In a team fight, maybe we win, but they don't care about team fighting. They just take our buildings at like 15 minutes. They're ahead, clearly, because they're just a mega push strat. They have no interest in killing heroes. So obviously, that's just a demonstration of how very quickly, like all things in Dota, it gets complicated. But in its most basic form, 5 heroes mid against each other, like which team is going to win, that's the most basic way you could break down who's ahead or who's behind.
Often in those cases as well, if you match them up 5v5 and there's a clear winner, often the team that's air quotes behind can actually be stronger when you start breaking the game down into more like 3-on-3 or 3v2 kind of thing, because it's typically that team with like the bigger ults or the bigger items. The synergies you get from big spells and big items, don't like if you're in a ball, is massive. If you strip someone with a Greaves away to just one hero being affected by Greaves, it's way not as valuable. That's the point.
Yeah.
So now if you then take that like team that's behind and you can start isolating and fragmenting that strong team that's ahead, that's where you can then start clawing your advantage back.
And this is a great point just on the whole topic of how to play from behind, because we're thinking about the perspective of the team that is behind. If you start thinking about how you can basically remove the scenario of the game away from that 5v5 ball up situation in which you're behind, if you can force 3v3s or 2v2s, 1v1s, whatever it is, through your movements on the map, through the kind of items you're buying and all of the various choices you have at your disposal, all the tools you have at your disposal when you play a game of Dota, that in essence is what we're trying to uncover, if you know what I mean, in this episode.
Also, you could even, just thinking about it, flip what you said about the who's ahead 5v5. I would personally say, just going off strict statistics of XP and gold would give this blanket indicator of who's ahead or behind. I think you could also have a situation where in a 5v5, the team with less XP and gold can come out on top. You see that loads with these Chinese team that play big ult heroes, black holes, ravages, RPs. You could be at a gold XP deficit, but when you force a 5v5 engagement, just because of what your kit is, you could come out on top. So if that were the scenario, if you're behind, what do you want to do? You want to ball up and make these plays happen where you can get a 3-man ultimates off, rather than let your team just get picked off one by one by the stronger, more farmed enemy.
Yeah, this is a tough topic. It's very nebulous because, I mean, you guys have already hit it. Like, I guess you could take who's ahead and behind by the 5-man gold XP and also like the team fight, but until the later stages of the game, you know, team fights 5-on-5s don't really happen.
Yeah.
Like, so you just gotta not let it like stay, or let the trend continue, I guess. Like, okay, if we all just keep farming in the same way we're farming, we are going to be behind. So you can't like let that keep happening. You know what I mean? I guess where that gets in the 3 versus 2s, the smoke ganks, the wraparounds, or if the other team is playing as a 5 stack of death ball, then you play the other side of the map and just wave clear with one hero or something. It's all just dependent on the compositions, but
there's also the another dimension you can approach is the time of the game. You can very much have games where, say, the whole game goal goes with equal gold XP from 0 to minute 40, but have kind of, swings back and forth between which team is strongest or not. Or typically it would go, say, in the first 20 minutes it's Team A, but then the last 20 minutes, assuming XP Gold equal, it starts to become Team B. And so another way to think about being behind is it might be this kind of timing aspect of you've got your harder carries, you've got your agi heroes that need items to do work as opposed to your int heroes that have got spells doing all their work. So you might need to think, we need to stall split push, for example, not leak deaths, just try and get a kill to delay the game by another 2 minutes because you know that you hit a 35 minute point, BKBs come online, whatever, you then can start shifting the favor, even if you've still not got that goal advantage, just because the enemy team starts getting weaker to items, say.
Yeah. Like we've said, really, or the only thing we have been very good at explaining is the fact that it's very complex. Who's ahead? Even if you think, wow, the enemy team, they have more golden XP than us, and also in a 5v5 engagement, they definitely win. That doesn't mean that they're ahead in the game in all situations. Certain game states, whether it's the number of heroes against each other, like we said, 3v3s, 2v2s, or where the creeps are literally on the map is another really important thing. What time the game is, like Marco was saying, maybe we come back into the game in 5 minutes because of the way our timings work and items.
It
and
also,
all this, yeah, go on.
It just also is, you can take a fight 20k down if you get the perfect fight. If you fight
100%.
the right way, if you use your spells the correct way, if you had vision beforehand and you go into them and they don't realize what's about to happen and you can pick people off one by one, you gotta you can't just say, oh, we're so far behind, let's not even try and take a fight. It's all about, if you take the right fight at the right place, you can, just positioning can make up for 15k.
Exactly.
Yeah, it absolutely can. Yeah. And it all comes back to asking yourself actively, what is that? What do we need to do?
What's the game state, the fight state scenario where we're actually ahead?
And you could get a basic example where it might be the enemy team has this BKB refresher Enigma that is the ace factor that is winning the enemy team every team fight and is the one and only issue, and you could be behind 30k gold. Then you say to yourself, well, we win the game if we snipe assassinate this Enigma before a fight starts. And so you think about, how can we do that? Let's get some wards up in it. Let's be aware that we need to shove out these creeps so we've got a bit more space to smoke. And then when we do smoke, okay, we need to focus the right target, spell targeting, focus who you focus. It's so big in these mid-game big fights. Suppose now you all do focus the Enigma and you get that jump and you execute the game plan you needed to. Who cares if you're 30k behind? You've killed the enemy's heart, and now you can just clean up. And I think OGTI 8 were monsters at understanding how they could come back in a game. If you look at their TI, how they were behind very often. And yeah, we know there was lots of choking and teams playing subpar, but you have to give OG credit for holding on, etc. But I do think that they showcased how you can be behind, but understand when you're the one that eventually comes online and understand how you kind of take the heart out of the enemy.
Yeah, pub players all too often oversimplify who's ahead and behind. And like you've been saying, if you just proactively think about, well, what is it exactly that we need to come back into this game? Oh, we just kill their mega farmed sniper, say, with a really good initiation. Well, we're going to need vision for that, and you start working backwards from there.
Yeah.
And suddenly there's a path to get back into the game. Because believe me, there's always a path to get back into the game until your throne's expired, more or less.
It's it's really difficult sometimes because if you are behind, it's naturally going to be, the odds are against you. You have to start playing above par. It's not easy, but it's rewarding. But
you've got to think better. That's the biggest thing as well.
Yeah, you can't.
Because if you just have default modes of thinking, then the default game will happen, and in the default game, you're behind, so you'll lose. You've got to change. Think more outside the box. The more far behind you are, the more bold you've got to be with the way you play and the way you think.
But also, sometimes you can be behind, but it's not even that complicated to recognize where your X factor comes from. You could have games where it's literally all right,
Kill the
you get
Tinker.
BKBs, or, kill the Tinker, but even just like get BKBs or get this pipe and Greaves, and then we use our items in a big team fight, and suddenly the enemy team don't do any damage, and we win a team fight and end the game. Like I remember you talking about a pub game you had where you were Viper, and it was 20 or 30 minutes, and you'd been getting slapped, but then at the same time you hit your Greaves, and someone else hit their item, and someone else hit their item, and despite getting slapped and behind all game,
just went thrown.
You just win a team fight, you don't die because you've got these items you needed and just thrown to something. And it's like, you could have just gone, oh, we're behind, and I'll just like stop focusing, and I'll buy the wrong item, and I'll get picked off, and we'll lose a tower, and I'll get picked off, and they'll get another tower, etc., and just whittle the game to a loss. But if you think, like, what is it we need? What tools, items, spells we need to win? What do we need to do with them? Okay. In your case, it was really simple. Just items, use them, take a fight. It's not always actually crazy difficult to spot.
And we've spoken about this tons of times as well, about following on from what we've been saying. It's often way too easy to get distracted with the most recent things that have happened in a game. For example, wow, we're 5k behind and we just lost a team fight. We traded one hero and we lost 4. Like, wow, we're really far behind. But actually, we've got like an AFK Naga Siren who we just wait 5 more minutes and we just completely outscale them. Or you've got, an anti-mage that it's a really good anti-mage game and he's going to come online soon. So yes, you're behind on gold and XP and maybe even map control and all the rest of it. But actually just scaling basically is another one of just how we will naturally come back into the game. And that's a way so we don't need to get caught up in thinking, wow, we're really far behind right now or something like that.
Another one going earlier in the game is being proactive and making things happen before the enemy team gets the items they want. This is a super common scenario, I think, because it's more like mid-game orientated. You could be behind gold XP. Maybe it's trickling, that trending towards the enemy's favor. And like, there've been billions of games of Dota where one team gets ahead and stays ahead all game and just wins. That's just kind of clean execution. But if you're going to stop that happening, it could be, and a common example is like the enemy's ahead and they're farming the next big item. So classic one is Rady. Oh, the enemy lifestealer is ahead. He's got free farm. He's doing great. Or the anti-mage is ahead, doing great. He's got so much more gold than us, farming his items. But if you go, well, if we leave him another few minutes to get his Rady and then just run at us, whoa, we're fucked. You could also, instead of letting that happen, go, well, why don't we go fuck him up before he's got his Radio, before he's got his BKB or his first
he's got
item,
a lot of dead gold,
item,
right?
Or he's got loads of gold banked up. Yeah, lots of times heroes might have this net worth, but it might be in a Midas and half an item. So they don't actually have items. So
it's behind. Wow, this anti-mage has had perseverance for 4 minutes. He must almost have battle fury. It's so scary, but it's like, he's just got perseverance. That's the item that he has, even if it's... Do you know what I mean?
Even anti-mage get so common. He gets a battle fury, he's ahead, sure. And this could be the case with other hard carries, but they're not strong. They don't come online or be strong until the next 3rd or 4th item. So
plus we'll just blink in and just die to like 4 hits.
Yeah, just go and kill him. Use your spells. Be proactive. Don't just think, oh, we can't do anything because we're behind. Like, recognize that you can do something. You could smoke up or even just ball up at a tower and go, well, come fight us. You might have more gold XP, but what do you do against our big team fight, etc., etc. There is so much you could do.
Final point I'll say before move the discussion a little bit and pose a situation that's a bit more specific. A classic thing that just bolsters the point Marco's just made is the team that's ahead, from their perspective, they're never, unless you're like a very high MMR, teams aren't going to play accordingly to how far ahead they are. So the classic example, I was thinking like a Jug that's doing really well, or a Leicester that's doing well, like his team's doing well and he's getting good farm. They themselves, even though they're not really ahead, they have they're close to a relic. They have nothing, right? It's just early in the game. They're going to feel like they're strong and they can be more aggressive with farm but it's not necessarily the case. Different heroes are going to be, especially early in the game, different heroes have vastly different relative strengths. So just because the Juggernaut's team is doing well top lane or whatever, when the laning stage breaks, he's going to make mistakes, like be too aggressive, think that he's stronger than he is, because actually his team are really strong, but just in the wrong areas. Basically, it's just a point of those players make mistakes even when they're ahead, maybe especially when they're ahead. So that just means there's even more opportunity to punish a lifestealer before he has Radiance Orb, or all the things you just pointed out.
Yeah, when you're behind, it's really key to always have your eye and mind on potential overextensions from the enemy. Because like you say, often that will happen. They're stronger, they may be looking for kills or towers. You really got to punish them. If you're behind, one of the biggest things you can do is punish the enemy for overstepping the boundary. All that swing back golden XP is so big. Like, stop when they overextend. If you don't punish them, they all just get further ahead. Do you know what I mean? Like someone solo killing a tier 2 and you don't stop them or punish them for doing that, even if you're behind, like you just let them get more ahead. You've got to be reactive and proactive.
Let me pose a more specific situation almost. Later in the game, say mid-game, even late game, when there's a lot of chess, Dota, where both teams are standing with all their resources and all their spells, waiting for something to happen, effectively, and sort of dancing around mid or dancing in the edges of vision and stuff. In these kind of situations, the team that's behind obviously has to really look for windows of opportunity to come out of base or expand on the map or be aggressive, often when they've been under the cosh for a long time. Adam, what do you think's the most important things for a team that's behind to look out for in terms of what should be give them a prerogative to feel more emboldened when they've been behind for a while? What kind of things are you looking out for, do you think?
For the enemy team?
Yeah, for the team that's behind. I was thinking, like, what kind of resources, like the hero's positioning?
I mean, just like vision. So what are they a type of team? I mean, presumably if you're behind, they're probably going to be farming a little more aggressively. A little bit, they're getting a little bit more of the map than you are. So yeah. I guess in that case, either defensive vision or vision in their jungle, so you can see them farm around.
Yeah.
If you can see at least some of the heroes, you can make a play on the other heroes, or at least know where they are. But I think Marco kind of hit it, where a lot of the way you claw back into a game, at least in the pub Dota setting, is you just like it's with where they are. I mean, because we are pub players, we're not like the top tier level of Dota. People always go too far.
Yeah. And
you usually get a pick off.
No
and then you just turn the gold XP around that way.
Yeah. I would reiterate the vision game, and I think that the best thing you can do is to shove your creep waves and try and get wards out, because those glimpses of vision, I think, make all the difference. And I think they make the difference because if you see one or two heroes elsewhere on the map, you've got to recognize, therefore, where they can or can't be. You see two heroes top, or you see someone in the woods top, or TP top, you see someone bottom, or you don't even see someone bottom. You just have these creep waves pushed out decently, and you just preempt someone in the enemy team is going to be maybe farming the woods or going to farm this creep wave that's going to come. I know there's two heroes top that can't get bottom. Let's make a dive. There's a very good chance you're going to find someone or someone's going to appear. And then you know that fact, you've seen two top, they're not going to be there to support them. You get a kill. That is how vision
shove a wave and shove a wave into a tower and then someone TPs into it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like even better than a ward, because the creep waves are like a mobile ward. I mean, that's kind of
that is true.
Part of the purpose they serve. But if you see somebody TP into a tower to take the wave, then that's like the biggest gift they can give you, right? Is like there's over a minute where they can't do anything. They can't get to you.
Yeah, that information is so important. And a tip for the team that's ahead, and particularly for those position 4s, 5s, even 3s, if you play off the map, nuke a creep wave out of vision. Don't just stand there right-clicking for 30 seconds. If you play off map, you will win games. It's what I remember when I was playing solos. I say when, but like quite often, one of the most common remarks that would come up from the like semi-pros and above is like, stop playing Invision, play off the map. Don't show your hero, because that information gives them a chance, the losing team, to come back into it. So now you go down through the pub tiers, people are going to be leaking information that they shouldn't be, and you've got to make use of it. You've got to see that Balinar TP top and understand, okay, he's the biggest havoc when we try and get a kill. Let's go fuck someone up on the opposite side of the map. We might not even see them yet, but let's just get in that position. And one of the key things you've got to do to enable that is having your creep waves pushed, because if you smoke when all the creep at your tier 3, it's pretty obvious you're doing something, so the enemy team is just going to hide. If you shove all your creep waves out, it buys you that bit of time to like get that smoke play off.
Yeah,
vision.
Sure, yeah. And like you say, you push your creep waves. The reason why you do that is you force situations in which the enemy team has to split up, and you can take advantage of that. Like you say, if there's a creep wave pushing into the enemy's tier 2, and they're all up in your jungle, they're way ahead map control wise, and you really want to get out into your jungle, maybe find a pick off. Well, the only way they're going to be forced to split out of your jungle and get away from a big 5-man scary bull is if they have a reason to leave, and creeps threatening your tier 2 is one of those reasons. That's why it's so important to push creeps. Another thing to say is, don't underestimate how important these windows are. They really are all you have, especially when you're behind. And even if you've got a 15k gold advantage or a gold deficit, let's say, from the position of the team that's behind, you're down 15,000 gold. If there's a double or triple wave pushing into the enemy tier 2 and the carry TPs to go and take all that juicy farm, that's 15k worth of hero gone, let alone all the spells he provides, right? All of that XP as well. So you take a 4 versus 5, doesn't matter how behind you are, you're more than likely going to win that team fight. Yeah. And then that just, with the comeback mechanic and all of the map control that you would then be able to alleviate, you, like Marco said, like the only way of coming back is you have to abuse these windows.
Another window, I don't know if Adam mentioned it, is about cooldowns. And so it's another one to be aware of and one that you can exploit. It's very basic. If the enemy team's got some baller, black hole, ravage, RP kind of team that relies on landing these big ults, say that there might have just been a fight and maybe it goes equally, or maybe like nothing happens and the team just retreat or something, whatever the case, you've got to recognize, okay, there's this 2-minute window, say, where we know the enemy team does not have what they need to boom us. So let's get out there and take advantage of that. Really simple. Exploit those cooldowns.
Yeah, if it's daytime and the Night Stalker's already used his ult, like, he's nowhere near as strong.
Yeah.
That's the time to go. You have like 80 seconds.
Yeah, that Night Stalker ult, honestly, with that massive AoE silence that lasts for a minute, is so ridiculously good. Like, I'm just him coming into combat with
so
that
long, it's actually insane.
Unbelievable.
It's like 8 seconds or 9 seconds.
Crippling Fear is an absolute joke.
It silences 3 heroes at once, forces all of them to bail for their life, or else they just get munched in 3 hits. Like, it's so strong. So yeah, if it's nighttime and his ult's down, get the fuck going, get something happening.
I don't know if there's any more helpless feeling than being a support and having a Night Stalker ult on top of you, and then just pop Crippling Fear. You're just like, okay, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I'm just going to run and hopefully pull him further away from the rest of the fight.
You can't even like throw out a Fade Bolt or like a little Crystal Nova. You can't even throw out like a spell just to like do a tiny bit of damage because you're just silenced.
If I see that happening, I stand up and go put the kettle on. Like, I'm nothing I can do. My right click literally deals 0 damage. So, but yeah, that's it. That's the other big one. Understanding cooldowns being down, and even you can push it to items, and BKB being a big one if you can.
Definitely.
Because often what will happen, even when you're behind, and the dream scenario is, say you're 20k, or let's say 10k gold XP behind, 20 to 30 minute period, and the winning team tried to start a fight, try to make this kind of 4v4, 5v5 big team fight happen, but you were able to successfully disengage. Say the enemy's PA used a BKB, jumped on someone, but then that guy got force staffed away and survived or glimmered. and now there's a BKB on the position 1 hard carry on cooldown, you should clock that and go, all right, let's fly. Well, potentially you could fly in, blow that hero that now doesn't have the BKB they need to be able to fight, and you actually could win a fight despite being behind. Like, that's a really classic one to recognize the BKB cooldowns and think how you could exploit it.
BKB, team fight abilities like Ravage and Black Hole, stuff like Metamorphosis.
That's a massive one, yeah.
Like, just, stuff to play around.
Yeah, definitely. So cooldowns and hero positioning, they are the big ones, really. Yeah. And thinking about what heroes are where as well. There's a difference between, oh wow, they're Bristleback's kind of by himself here, he's isolated. There's a difference between that and like, oh, they're Crystal Maiden or whatever, a squishy hero, their Rubik is, wow, he's isolated. There's a big difference there. And obviously, think about these things. Hopefully you are. Another thing is, even something as small as using Blink, like a Blink initiation, like a Blink hoof stomp or something, the higher up you go in the Dota food chain, I mean, I don't suppose it's particularly relevant to any of our listeners probably, but I know in Pro Dota and in high Immortal games, if a Centaur uses Blink Stomp and like doesn't catch a hero, that's a huge reason for the enemy team to fight. They're like, wow, one of their biggest, even just something that's low cooldown like Blink and Hoof Stomp, if it's used poorly, the other team are going to pounce on that.
Yeah, you are right. The window of exploitation gets so small. Like you say, this 12-second cooldown is now up, and teams recognize, all 5 of them, that they've got this window of opportunity. I was also going to say you can flip the scenario of big cooldowns are on the enemy, so like go make stuff happen. You can also flip that and go, say you're the team that's behind and you're the one with the Ravages, etc. You've got to recognize that you can't do shit if all your cooldowns are on or off. Say you've got the big team fights, like you've got to kind of be turtle defensive. Don't leak any kills. Don't leak your advantage. And you leak your advantage by losing heroes on the map, etc. That lets the enemy team snowball. Don't let any of that happen until those cooldowns are back. And now you can go, okay, we can actually fight, even though we're behind, because we've got our spells back. So you can look at it in both scenarios.
I've got an interesting game that I played recently that illustrates playing from behind quite nicely and just how important cooldowns are. We were a team with... We had a Lifestealer on our team that was really farmed. I can't exactly remember what hero I was. I think I was Meepo. Yeah, and we had a Tide Hunter. We have all complete map control. We're way ahead. Tide Hunter's just finished a refresher shard. He has everyone has all their cooldowns. We have all our buybacks. They used one of their buybacks. We're pushing high ground. We think, wow, we literally will team wipe them 100%. 100% will team wipe them because we have Blink, Ravage, Infest Bomb, Refresher, Ravage. They can't do anything. And we were right to think that. That wasn't a misjudgment on our part. That was completely correct. We have this big fight to get this last set of racks or whatever it is. Blink, Ravage, Refresher, Ravage. We indeed team wipe them. We literally kill all 5 of their heroes without losing anyone. They all buy back. We can't get out properly because we think we've won the game. They buy back on all their or 4 of their heroes, the 4 that had buyback. And in the ensuing fight, we then lose. We get wiped or we lose 4 heroes or something because Ravage and Refresher, that is basically 80% of our relative power, right? And it's like we've been saying about how important cooldowns are. They team wipe us. All 5 of us or all 4 of us or whatever buy back. So we're thinking we're fine. We've lost a team. We got a set of racks. We might have even got megas. Can't remember. But they just parade down mid. We don't have Ravage. And even in a 5v4, we then lose the fight and they just win the game off the back of that. And that's because of our failure to realise actually it doesn't matter if we've only got 1 set of racks to go. It doesn't matter if we've all got buybacks. We can't afford to use a resource like Ravage and then basically be in a position where they're able to push off the back of it in any way, or we will simply just lose. So that's just an example of how important cooldowns can be. And like we say, it's pretty obvious, but it's worth sounding out anyway.
I can give a nice example of being behind and overcoming it as well. So in this game, the enemy team basically all the early game and until like 20 minutes, so kind of the early mid game, the enemy team is ahead by the definition of gold XP. So on their team, they've got, say, this offlane Pudge. At 10 minutes, he has Phase, Bracer, Blink. At 10 minutes, that hero with those items
that's disgusting.
Is frigging scary. Like, I'd struggle to think of any hero that could match a Pudge at 10 minutes of those with double Bracer, Phase, Blink. Scary times. They also have a TA, a mid TA that was doing its classic, like, just farming, decent farmer, was farmed well. They also had a monkey bottom, also in this early game, had farmed decently well, got an Echo Saber first item, so it's kind of a fighty, he's strong in this early game period. So these three heroes, if they find any one of us, will blow us. They would absolutely blow us. If it was like a 2v2, they're going to blow us. They've got the gold XP to blow us. But what we did really, really well, and this was me and Earth Spirit in particular, so I was Disruptor, me and him were running around as this duo pair, and we'd connect with either our mid Gyro, who's got a lot of damage, or we connect with our LC, who has a bit of damage, and we'd always look to connect and get a 3v1 or a 3v2, but typically 3v1. How do we do that? We were just using our glimpses, or we were flying in with Rolling Boulder, and we were just bursting these heroes one by one, because we know that fucking Monkey on a Fat Pudge, like, if they take some equal numbered fight, they're just going to slay us. So you just got to keep picking them off one by one. And there was a moment, like one of the game-winning moments was we did this, a TP bottom, we get a smoke with Spirit and I think Gyro, we get a gank on the Monkey, it's kind of that mentality of you're ahead, so they kind of feel a bit safer, get a kill on him, then we kind of retreat, he TP's back to the lane, we then turn around, kill him again, that's his game. That's actually his game gone, no TP, dead for a long time. That opened up the map for us to find more kills, and we just constantly didn't let them ever kind of take us on an equal 1v1 or 2v2, which they would have.
You never let them realise their advantage.
No, yeah,
because you didn't let the game state shift to a position where they could realise how far ahead they are.
No, we were the ones on the front foot running around with that numbers advantage, and we're able to then abuse that to mean like a Pudge. I mean, I don't even know if we killed him. You're probably just going to ignore him. Someone like a TA and a Monkey on their own, weak as shit. If they're on a 1v1, 2v2, they're going to smash you to shit. So, like, you recognize that, and we play faster than them. They don't respond well enough, whatever. Really sick game, and really well played, I felt, from our team.
Adam, I don't know if you want to pile in. You can have an actual game example or just like a classic situation.
I have a game.
Nice.
This was playing with Loot Monkey when I was CK carry. No, this game we ended up beating a Slark that went 24-6 and 26 and had an absolute ton of Agi stolen. Because they were like really far ahead. They had Slark, Spirit Breaker, Night Stalker, Pudge, and Dazzle. So it's like, oh man, you got Night Stalker and Spirit Breaker, and then like a Pudge with a Blink and Slark. Like anyone gets gone on, they're dead, and they have Chase forever. But they don't actually hit buildings very well. And we had a Wind Ranger and a Pango, so it's like they actually can't push high ground because Power Shot and Swashbuckle just kills the creeps. And then you can actually disarm, a Swashbuckle on the Slark and their Night Stalker and stuff. And we had a Bounty Hunter, so we just kind of took, fights. They would overextend. They, dive past the tier 3, get some track kills, get back into the game, just that type of stuff. Like if we fought out on the map, we really couldn't ever contest anything. But it's play on our high ground, we can totally fight forever. So it's like that type of a game.
I know you mentioned that Slark had like a ton of kills, but maybe you didn't execute exactly this game plan, but would it be fair to say that when you assessed you were behind and stuff in that game, if you can play where maybe when they come to push with 5 heroes to try and be like, we're really far ahead, we're going to take your high ground now, you can't do anything about it, you actually just sit a Wind Ranger and maybe a Pangolier to D-push 5 heroes worth of push, while 3 others, say your CK and whoever else it is, farms around the map, and that's the way that you come back into the game, because you've realised, wait a second, we just have constant D-push.
Especially after we took the first high ground. It's like, okay, they actually can't fight into us. It's like, it was one of those games where you had to tell the team, like, it's all right, guys.
Yeah, just chill.
Like, it's we're okay. They can push out forever or D-push forever. I can play the other side of the map. Hopefully have some wards up in case Spirit Breaker's charging, and then I can just like get back out type of a deal. And that was a funny game because I guess the other teammates were kind of backseat gaming, and Loot Monkey made the mistake of saying, "This guy's divine, don't tell him what to do." And then the game got like really out of hand really early, like, "Oh, our divine carry over here is so good," blah blah blah, and like started flaming me just for existing.
You can't say that anymore.
I was like, I don't know what you guys are. Yeah, I know, right? This divine 5 carry, and I was an ancient 7 scrub. I had to be like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, we're gonna win. Like, that false sense of positivity.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
And then we did. I mean, CK, especially, you pop Phantasm, you defend, and then by the time they come back to you again, you have Phantasm again. Like, the really illusions really
clear as well.
Yeah, illusions, like those Phantasm illusions really help to narrow a gap in net worth. And it's like, I just go on the Dazzle every time, so they can't grave anything. And then it's and then I have the BKB piercing reality rift talent, and you actually can chase heroes with that. So
yeah, looking at these lineups, they have nothing to deal with your ult. They've got to therefore recognize we could be 15, 20k ahead, but if CK is going ham with his ult, we're going to get sliced one by one. So if they're to play correctly, they want to bait out your ult, disengage, and then go. Seems like they never did that. You exploit the fact that you're strong with that ult, and you force things to happen, like you force an engagement to happen when you've got your ult happening, make sure they can't get out, then you claw it back.
Yeah, we actually have pretty good, anti-Slark stuff. If you get a Shackle without Death Pact or Dark Pact happening, or just a Swashbuckle, I can disarm through Shadow Dance. So big.
And I mean, we touched on that game being basically an example of one of the classic how to play from behind on a tactical basis. Yeah, this is like Turtle with D-push and wait for your farm and stuff to wait for the relative farm of the heroes to get to a point where you're not as behind. There are others as well. We've written here delay. That's a classic. Basically, space creation is another way of saying delay. Delay your carry from being pressured by taking really aggressive farm and being really annoying. I think of like Topson playing an Ember Spirit or a Tiny or something. Even if he dies, it doesn't matter because Anna's AFK farming. That's like space creation, basically 101. Another one, I suppose, split pushing is a classic. We've all had games where there's an anti-mage or a nature's prophet split pushing your tier 3s, and you feel like you've deserved to win the game because you're so far ahead, or it doesn't matter because you have to answer this split push, and it's just delaying the game more. Delaying you being able to ball up. There was a game at TI we saw where Team Liquid were, I think, against Vici Gaming and were really far behind, but Vici had bristleback Medusa cores or something, and they just get split pushed to death. And it's like, Liquid are behind, quote unquote, when you look at these really basic examples of how to determine that, like we covered at the start of the episode. Gold XP, right? Or 5v5 mid. Yeah, Team Liquid are behind. But actually, they can just keep the game state in this split push scenario where Vici can never realise their gold advantage. They can never realise their 5v5 advantage because they never get the chance to do that.
Yeah, that was TNC, and they had a bristleback and a death prophet, and they were just so immobile against, like you say, the anti-mage, and it was Lesh as well, the other liquid core with the travel, just pacey as anything. Another point a really big point for the split push, but also the kind of delay strat, and it came up in the game me and you just played. We had this team where we've got a drone and OD. They need their items, right? The enemy team have got baller. They were just early doing Pugner. That's all you need to know. They're balling at our towers. They want to end the game. They kind of can end the game. A tip I would give to the team behind, and in the cores in particular, is that it's so helpful if they can shove waves out as far as they can and as safely as they can. Because like we've said, with the map vision it gives, it can give you information about enemy heroes, and then that can maybe open up gank potential. It also, like you've mentioned, if you're pushing creeps at towers, it can force the enemy team back and therefore delay that tier 2, tier 3 push that you need to delay to hit your sweet spot of win condition. And then also, when you if you're split pushing, you're going to force heroes to the wave, and like I said, gank potential. It can help you split the enemy team. So, like I said, if they're this baller team that wants to just go in a 5 and take towers, if you split push, you increase the likelihood that you're able to break that 5 into a 1 or into a 2 or 3. And from there, you could then maybe make this skirmish happen that's favourable.
And you've got to think from the Drow Ranger's perspective, just to add, if the Drow Ranger is thinking, oh man, this Pugner lineup's about to ball up on my high ground, well, it's actually better for the Drow Ranger if they're going to contribute to a defence. It's better for the Drow Ranger not to try and defend the mid-tier 3, but rather to split push and force a hero back.
Exactly.
That's just as legitimate a form of defending your high ground as it is to be on the high ground trying to right-click down the wave. There's a Rubik with Fade Ball and Deep Push. You don't need to be there.
It's like what Adam said about his game against that Omega Slark. Adam's team had great wave clear. What was it? This Windrunner and Pango. They just boom any creep that come. You don't need your friggin' roll 1 to sit next to your heroes to kill the creeps. Like, get elsewhere on the map to open the map up more and relieve pressure. When honestly, that Dro really fucked us over by not recognizing that he had liberty to push the creeps out more and not have to defend waves, which he was doing. He was also farming too deep as well. He was farming neutrals when he should have been pushing the creep wave out as fast as he can. Because also, and again, this is typically the positions 1, 2, 3, you can kill creep waves in a second, and you often will have mobility and items that mean you can scurry into the trees after you've done so. Again, this idea of playing off the map. If you're doing that and then therefore pushing the creep waves all the way around to the enemy team's side of the map, and you're in this game where you need to delay, you're doing so much work, so much value for your team if you do that. This Dro didn't do that. It really shafted us quite a bit.
If you think about watching pro games, often versus pub games, say, in pub games, when a team's really far behind, the thing you tend to see is them huddling on their own high ground, being really insular. Whereas you watch a pro game, when a team's really far behind, that is often the time you see the craziest hero movements from the team that's behind, just to clear a wave, just to drag a creep wave away. You often see position 5s or whatever, sacrifice their own life to pull away a creep wave, to get heroes out of position, to delay this 5-man as much as possible. So, it's similar to what I said earlier. The more far behind you are, the more outside of the box, the more like crazy hero movements you should consider, because they might be beneficial to you. Adam, I don't know if you want to give us a final sort of in-game example of the kind of thing you want to, or a way in which you get back into a game, like smoking or anything like that you can think of.
Smokes are. I don't have any more like specific examples, but smoke and. Sorry, do you hear that horn?
Yeah.
In the background?
Listeners got some horn action. Nice.
Somebody in the.
Is that a fan outside? Go give him.
There's a car alarm.
Fan, listener.
Yeah, fan. Let's see. So smoke and a Roche contest. It's pretty big. Using your scan.
Scan's
after scan's been in the game for 2 or 3 years now, I finally use it. I finally click on it. Don't wait for somebody else to actually use it. The scan can be pretty good in tandem with wards.
It's information.
Ward on one side of the map. Yeah, ward on one side of the map, and then you can scan on the other. You definitely can figure out where people are. Yeah, just know. I think just know what your team's combined hero composition excels at.
Yeah, that's a good.
Because maybe you have the you have the team fight comp, so you can contest Roche at any point in the game, even though you're behind. Because you maybe your team fight ults are good around that area, or maybe you have Pango and you're like the king of Roche or Batrider or something like that. Or maybe you're not those heroes and you're Nature's Prophet, and then while they're taking Roche, you push out two lanes, or like all the lanes with your ult or something, and then you have to waste 2 minutes of their Roche timer just like getting the creeps back equilibrium.
There's quite a few things we could have mentioned in the episode, but we sort of ran out of time a little bit. Things like the obvious: don't overextend when you've come back from being behind. That's a classic one you see all the time. Team does miraculous hold against the odds. They five-man down mid to get a tier 2 instead of getting out wards and pushing their side lanes and anything. They just 5-man down mid. The enemy maybe buys back 1 or maybe 2 heroes, wipes them, and then just ends.
Yeah, because you've used all of your abilities to do the hold. Yeah. And then that's when you push is like, That's
not a good idea, yeah, that's a classic one. And another one is the use of buybacks. Kind of more of a nuanced point that we thought about, just especially if you're a support with wave clear, say you're a Rubik with Fade Bolt, might just be worth buying back to D-push at 20 minutes if you really think that your team in 5 minutes, 10 minutes time, if they can hold, the game will play out well for you, you'll scale better. Then it really doesn't really matter if you have buyback and your goal doesn't really matter. It's better you just get back into the game and use your Fade Bolt to D-push, to delay. So yeah, that's, I suppose, more or less it for the episode. That's covered a few bases. Obviously a difficult topic. You could talk till the cows come home about how to play from behind, because it's so similar to how to play, which is, we've done 55 episodes on that. So really it's one of the more broad topics that we've chosen to cover.
It's definitely harder, but more rewarding though, when you are able to come back from behind. So to say, I think it's really rewarding, because it demonstrates that you have a better understanding and execution of the game than the enemy team. Even though you may have faltered in execution, say the first 20 minutes, if you've got better understanding and think a bit more about it and act a bit more proactively, you can swing a game of Dota back. It's this complicated game, and anything can happen, and you can make wins happen even if it's not likely.
And that's why I never want Surrender to be introduced into the game.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, and oftentimes when you've come from behind, it's not just that you understand the game better. It's you're having a positive attitude to the game state and thinking, man, we have a chance, and giving yourself a chance. When that then is borne out, that is extra rewarding, because we've all had games where you just crumble. That's a classic Dota. So to not crumble and actually defy the odds,
PMA is actually huge to be able to come back from a game with Dota.
Massive.
Actually, so big. If you give up, even if you've got like so many ways to come back into it, if you just give up and stop trying, stop focusing, it may as well be over. So PMA is actually massive.
Even just giving mental capacity in your own brain to sort of wallowing in how far behind you are, that is such a detriment to your chances of winning. If you need to use your brain to be thinking about all the things we've been saying today, about all of the countless ways in which you can force a game scenario where you're actually a little bit ahead because there's a hero here, whatever, all the things we've been saying. Use your brain to think about those things, because you're behind, right? Your brain power needs to be in overdrive if you want to come back. So really, like, your PMA is everything. It's so, so important. And confidence and, all of that stuff. So, yeah. That's at 55. Not sure what we'll be talking about in at 56. Maybe, well, actually, I want a patch. Probably won't be for the next one, but yeah, soon, I hope.
Yeah, 2 new heroes, God.
Yeah, I thought that Dota Plus patch today, I thought that was when it said fall update. I didn't see Dota Plus fall update. I just saw Dota fall update. I'm like, 2 heroes, here they are.
That'd be so sick. I'm very excited for these heroes, to be fair. I fear fall is so ambiguous that Valve
will
just...
fall.
Yeah.
I think
when Valve says fall, they mean like the last day. Like it's going to be
December 20th or something.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, though, there won't be a mini patch. That's all I'll say. Hopefully, the next patch isn't 0.22 whatever the letter after G is. It's just the land whatever. What's the name of the update? Can't even remember.
Outlanders?
Outlanders, that's it. Yeah, good. But yeah, we'll have to see. Until EP 56.
Good luck on calibrations.